Hello, welcome to the Africa Briefing podcast, where we discuss everything African.
Hello, and welcome to the Africa Briefing podcast. My name is John Ofeyatsa. Reaction to the recent racist attacks on Africans in China has not abated. Earlier this week, Africa Briefing published an open letter by the Pan-African Human Rights Defenders Network, a coalition of African civil society organizations and individuals on the continent, as well as those living in Europe and the US, to the chairman of the African Union, Moussa Faki. The strongly worded letter demanded immediate remedial action over the xenophobic, racist, and inhuman treatment of Africans in China, and called on African leaders to demand a full and independent investigation into the violations. The network welcomed the statements of the African group of ambassadors in Beijing and the reaction from different African governments as well as the African Union, but emphasized the need to transform these statements into practical action that puts an end to the horrendous dehumanization of Africans in China. It referred to the alleged forceful testing, quarantining, and inhumanely treating African people by the Chinese authorities in Guangdong province in particular, describing them as a violation of international human rights laws and principles. The letter said that Africa's strong economic ties with China should not thrive at the cost of human rights and human dignity. The network touched on what it termed as the troubling behavior of Chinese immigrants in Africa, who, at the latest count, number more than 1 million. It noted recurring complaints regarding illicit activities by Chinese businesses in Africa and said that further cooperation between African countries and China must establish clear standards of mutual accountability. The letter added, such standards of accountability must be formulated with the active participation of African citizens. We believe that without strong mutual accountability frameworks, the message of solidarity preached by China towards Africans will ring hollow. The participation of African people in defining the framework of partnership will ensure that, going forward, China-Africa partnership has a human face and is reflected in Chinese business conduct in Africa, and our mutual solidarity is also a reality reflected on the streets of Chinese cities and provinces. The letter said that principles of human and people's rights must be at the center of the partnership. This framework will address the imbalance in trade, ballooning debts, restrain dumping of inferior quality goods by strengthening standards monitoring, and control illicit financial outflows and corrupt practices by Chinese businesses operating in Africa. I believe that the points raised in this letter should form the basis of any future renegotiations between African leaders and China. The Chinese, for far too long, have taken advantage of our hospitality, have taken advantage of our need for investment and loans. And we believe it's about time that the African leaders realize that the Chinese are not in Africa because they love Africans, but they are in Africa because of the need for what we have, the resources we possess, and leverage that for our benefit. It's time for our leaders to wake up to the realities and protect us and our brothers and sisters in China. Thank you for listening. And for news and views, commentary, analysis on Africa, please visit www.africabriefing.org. Stay safe and keep hope alive.
You have been listening to the Africa Briefing podcast.